What if I told you that 90% of your casting effort is not only wasted, but it's actively scaring away the very fish you're trying to catch? Think about that for a second. We spend years and hundreds of dollars trying to perfect that long, beautiful 100-yard bomb of a cast, but we're so focused on the horizon, we're completely blind to the feeding frenzy happening right at our feet. Today, we're tearing down the myth of the perfect cast. I'm going to show you why the most productive water in any lake is the 10 feet you're standing next to. By the end of this video, you will see your local spot in a completely new light, and I guarantee your catch rate is going to thank you for it. So let me ask you, and be honest, do you believe the biggest fish are always out there in the deep water? Let me know in the comments, because we are about to challenge that idea head on. For generations, the image of the angler has been defined by the cast. We see it on television, in magazines. The hero shot of a line unfurling perfectly across the water. It's ingrained in us that farther is better. We believe that the fish are skittish and that the only way to reach the untouched ones is with a massive, long-distance effort. This creates a kind of tunnel vision. We arrive at the water, and our first instinct is to immediately rig up and launch our lure as far as humanly possible toward that distant log or the opposite bank. It's an angler's ego at play. We've been conditioned to think that a short cast is a lazy cast or a beginner's cast. But this deep-seated habit, this obsession with distance, is built on a fundamental misunderstanding of where fish spend most of their time feeding. Let's start with what I call the angler's blind spot. Picture this common scenario. You pull up to a beautiful lake at dawn. The water is like glass. What's the first thing you do? You probably walk right to the edge, make a few practice swings, and then let it fly, aiming for that spot 100 yards away. While your lure is sailing through the air, you've just crunched over gravel, cast a long shadow over the water, and sent vibrations through the ground. A big, wary bass that was cruising the shallows just 5 feet from the bank, looking for an easy meal, has now either bolted for deep water or has its guard up. You've effectively shut down the most productive zone before your lure even hits the water. This isn't a rare mistake. I see 95% of anglers do this every single time they go out. They treat the bank like a launch pad, not a hunting ground. Now let's talk about why this is happening. It's all about the grass is greener syndrome. In fishing, we translate this to the fish are farther. We have this baked-in belief that the water near us is disturbed, sterile, and devoid of life. We think all the big, smart fish are hiding way out in the middle, away from the clumsy humans on the shore. This idea is reinforced by fishing shows that often feature anglers in high-powered bass boats making incredible casts to distant structures, but what they don't show you is the hours spent using electronics to find those specific spots. For the bank angler, that distant water is a complete unknown. You're essentially casting blind, hoping to randomly land on a fish. The truth is, the bank you're standing on offers more structure, cover, and food than 50 yards of open water ever could. So, let's flip the script. Why are the margins, the shallows, right at your feet so damn productive? It's simple biology. Think like a fish for a minute. Where is the food? It's not in the barren middle of the lake. The food is in the weeds, under the overhanging trees, around the rocks, and tucked into the undercut banks. This is where baitfish hide, where frogs and insects fall into the water, and where crawfish crawl. Predatory fish, like bass or pike, are lazy. They are masters of energy conservation. They won't waste energy chasing a meal across a wide open area if they can sit in a concealed spot right by the bank and wait for food to come to them. The shoreline is a non-stop buffet, and by casting over it, you're flying right past the dinner table. Consider the life of a baitfish. Where do they feel safest? They don't school in the open water where they are easy targets for birds from above and bigger fish from below. They cling to cover, they hug the weed lines, the lily pads, and the shoreline. And where the bait fish go, the predators follow. A large bass won't sit in 20 feet of water waiting for a school of minnows to swim by. It will position itself at the edge of that cover in just a few feet of water, waiting for the perfect moment to ambush. When you see those little fish scattering at the water's edge, that's not just random movement. Now, often it's a sign that something much bigger is hunting them, and it's happening in water that most people would consider too shallow to even bother with. Now let's get into the damage a hero cast actually does. It's not just about missing the fish at your feet, it's about actively spooking the entire area. First, there's the splashdown. A 1-ounce lure landing 100 yards away is a subtle plink. That same lure landing 15 feet away sounds like a boulder dropping from the sky to a fish. It's an unnatural, alarming sound that screams danger. Even if they don't see you, that sound is enough to put them on high alert. You've just taught every fish in the area that this spot is not safe. They might not flee, but they will definitely stop feeding and become much, much harder to catch. Your one big, impressive cast has just ruined your chances for the next 20 minutes. Beyond the splash, think about the line. When you make a long cast, your fishing line cuts a direct path across the surface of the water, right over the heads of all those fish holding close to the bank. To a wary fish, this is like a bird of prey's shadow passing overhead. It's another major alarm bell. They can see and feel that line moving through the water, and it's completely unnatural. A short, subtle pitch or a gentle roll cast, on the other hand, places the lure with minimal disturbance and keeps the line out of their immediate line of sight. Stealth is everything in fishing, and a long overhead cast is the opposite of stealthy. It's like trying to sneak up on a deer while banging a drum. This leads us to the crucial first step every angler should take, but almost no one does. Stop and watch. Before you even think about rigging your rod, take a full 5 minutes, stand back from the water's edge, stay low, and just observe. Don't look out at the horizon. Look at the water from your feet to about 20 feet out. What do you see? Look for the nervous water, that little V-wake that indicates a fish moving just under the surface. Look for the subtle flick of a tail fin near a weed bed. Look for the dark shape of a bass sitting motionless next to a rock. These are the signs that 99% of anglers miss because they're too busy rushing to make that first, pointless cast. Patience is not about waiting for a bite. It's about waiting for the right moment to even start fishing. Let's retrain our eyes. What are we looking for exactly? We're looking for irregularities, a single lily pad that's shaking when the others are still, a sudden puff of mud or sand from the bottom in shallow water, a bluegill or perch suddenly darting out from under a dock. These are all clues that a predator is nearby. You're not looking for the predator itself. You're looking for the effect it has on its environment. Think of it like hunting. A good hunter doesn't just look for a deer. They look for a broken twig, a fresh track, a patch of rubbed-off bark on a tree. We need to apply that same level of forensic observation to our fishing. The water's edge is a crime scene, and you need to piece together the clues before you present your evidence, which is your lure. Let me give you a real-world example. I was fishing a heavily pressured public pond a while back. I watched a guy for 30 minutes. He was a great caster, hitting the same spot near a fountain way out in the middle, over and over again. He caught nothing. I walked up, stood well back from the edge, and just watched the cattails to my right. After a minute, I saw one of the reed stems twitch unnaturally. It was a subtle, tiny movement. I didn't cast. I just stripped a few feet of line and gently dapped a weightless plastic worm right next to that reed. The water exploded. It was a 4-pound bass that had been sitting there, completely invisible, less than a rod's length from the bank. That fish had probably watched the other guy's lure fly over its head 50 times. So how do you approach the water without being detected? The key is to think like a predator. Move slowly and deliberately. Avoid walking on loose rocks or gravel near the edge as the vibrations travel through the ground and into the water. Use any available cover like trees or tall grass to break up your silhouette. The lower your profile, the better. Crouching or kneeling as you get close to the water can make a world of difference, especially on a bright sunny day when your shadow is long. Remember, a fish's world is one of constant threat from above. Herons, ospreys, eagles. A tall, human-shaped figure appearing suddenly on the bank is the ultimate danger signal. Be the heron, not the human. Now let's talk technique. We need to forget the big overhead power cast for this close-quarters combat. The first technique you need to master is the pitch. It's a quiet, low-trajectory underhand toss that uses the weight of the lure to swing it forward. It's incredibly accurate and enters the water with a fraction of the splash of a normal cast. You can pitch a jig or a soft plastic into a tiny opening in the reeds from 15 feet away with barely a ripple. It's the perfect tool for presenting a lure to a fish you've spotted without sending it running for the hills. It's not flashy, but it is deadly effective. It's about precision, not power. Another essential technique is the roll cast, especially for those using a spinning rod. You don't need a full back cast. You simply let out a few feet of line, use the rod to create a D loop, and then use the rod's flex to roll the line and lure forward. It's a fantastic way to cast under overhanging branches and docks where a traditional cast is impossible. It allows you to place a lure gently and quietly into those high percentage areas that are right in front of you but are often ignored because they are too hard to cast to. The fish in these spots are often less pressured precisely because they are difficult to reach with a lazy overhead chuck. Let's not forget the simplest presentation of all, just dropping your line. I've caught countless fish by simply standing on a dock or a steep bank and lowering my lure straight down next to the pilings or into the deep water at the edge. Fish use this structure for cover. They press up against it. They don't expect a threat to come from directly above. A wacky rigged worm sinking slowly next to a dock post is something a bass has a very hard time resisting. You're making a perfect presentation without a cast at all. This requires zero casting skill, only observation and a little bit of patience. It feels too simple to work, which is exactly why it works so well. The gear you use also plays a role. While you don't need anything fancy, a slightly shorter rod, maybe around 6.5 or 7 feet, can be easier to manage for pitching and roll casting. More importantly, think about your line. In these close quarters situations, a heavy braided line can sometimes be too visible or make too much noise. This is a perfect time to use a fluorocarbon leader or even straight fluorocarbon. It's nearly invisible underwater and can give you a significant edge when the fish are close enough to inspect your offering carefully. Your lure choice should also be geared towards a quiet entry. Think weightless plastics, light jigs, or small hard baits, not giant, heavy thumping spinnerbaits. Now let's address the big objection. But what about deep water? Of course, fish use deep water. They use it as a sanctuary, a place to rest, and a stable environment during extreme weather, but they don't typically feed there. They move from the deep water sanctuaries to the shallow water kitchens to eat. And this is especially true in the mornings and evenings, which are the prime feeding times. By focusing on the shallows first, you are intercepting these fish when they are at their most active and vulnerable. You can always try the deep water later in the day after you've already thoroughly worked the high percentage areas close to the bank. Start close, then work your way out, not the other way around. This entire philosophy can be summed up in one phrase: fish the water in front of you. Before you make a cast to the other side of the river, make a few short pitches to the bank you're standing on. Work the water in a fan pattern, starting with the spot 5 feet to your left, then 10 feet in front of you, then 5 feet to your right. Cover all of your immediate water thoroughly and quietly. Only after you are 100% certain there are no fish at your feet should you even consider a longer cast. You will be absolutely shocked at how many bonus fish you pick up by adopting this simple, methodical approach. These are the fish that everyone else has been ignoring for years. Let's debunk another myth. Shallow water only holds small fish. This is completely false. Some of the biggest bass I have ever caught have been in less than 2 feet of water. Big fish are big because they are smart and opportunistic. They understand that the best, easiest meals are often found in the shallows. A big, mature fish has the confidence to move into these skinny water areas to hunt. They use their size and camouflage to their advantage. The reason most people don't catch big fish in the shallows is because they spook them long before the lure gets there. If you approach with stealth and make a delicate presentation, you have a very real chance of hooking the dominant fish in the area. Think about the seasonal patterns. In the spring, fish are shallow for the spawn. In the summer, they come shallow in the mornings and evenings to feed. In the fall, they push bait fish up into the shallow coves and creeks. Even in the winter, on a sunny day, the shallow water on a northern bank will warm up a few degrees, drawing in bait and the predators that follow them. There is virtually no time of year when the margins are completely devoid of life. It is the one constant, year-round hotspot. The deep water bite can be unpredictable, but the shallow water close-range bite is almost always there if you know how to look for it. This approach also makes you a much better angler overall. It forces you to slow down. It forces you to become an observer of nature rather than just a person chucking hardware into the water. You start to understand the ecosystem of your local water body on a much deeper level. You learn to read the wind, the light conditions, and the subtle language of the water. You stop relying on luck and start relying on skill and observation. Your fishing becomes an active, engaging process of hunting and problem-solving, not just a passive waiting game. It's more fun and far more rewarding. So the next time you go out, I have a challenge for you. For the first hour of your fishing trip, do not make a single cast longer than 20 feet. That's it. Force yourself to focus only on the water directly in front of you. Get low, stay quiet, and use those subtle, close-range techniques we talked about. I am willing to bet that you will not only catch a fish, but you will see signs of life that you never knew existed. You will break a habit that has been holding you back. You are not just changing a technique, you are changing your entire perspective on where fish live and how they behave. You will stop being a caster and start being a hunter. So there you have it. The perfect cast is a lie. We've torn down this old, tired myth that father is always better. We've seen that fish are creatures of opportunity, and the biggest buffet on the lake is often right under the tip of your rod. The real game-changing moment for any angler isn't when you learn to cast 100 yards, it's when you learn to truly see the 10 feet of water right in front of you. The biggest improvement you can make to your fishing has nothing to do with buying a new rod or reel. It's about changing what you do in those first 5 minutes at the water's edge. It's about putting the rod down and just watching. That's the secret. Thank you so much for watching. If this video changed your perspective, do me a favor and hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe for more real, no-nonsense fishing advice that actually works. Now, for my final question, and I really want to hear your stories on this one. What's the biggest fish you've ever caught within 10 feet of the bank? Let me know in the comments below. We'll see you on the water.